What we think, we become. I'm Lakshmikantan, and this is the channel where I share with you guys about the books I read and the vocabulary in them. Every Sunday I'll be sharing with you about a book I read, and in the weekdays I'll be sharing with you about the vocabulary that I learned from those books. So in our list, the first book that I'm going to share with you is a non-fictional book. It is, you can even call this as a self-help book, and this is basically is written to enhance the creativity of an individual. So the name of the book is Steal Like an Artist. It is written by Austin Kleon. In this book, the author shares 10 principles with which one can enhance his or her creativity. So of those 10 principles, I found 5 to be my favorites. So in today's video, I'll share with you guys those 5 principles which I felt as my favorites. So the first principle that he says is, there is nothing new that is existing in this world. So everything that is existing in this world is either a combination of something that existed before or the combination of something that is existing now and something that existed earlier. So that is what he says. There is nothing new in this world and everything is a combination of something or the other. And the second thing that he says is, we have to be selective in the type of content that we are going to give. Supposing if I'm a writer, I should be specific in the types of books that I'm going to write. Whether am I going to write fictional books or non-fictional books. So only when a person is being specific or selective in the type of content that he is going to deliver, he'll be able to be more creative. And the next thing that he says is, so you have to have a family tree. Family tree is nothing but having role models. So if you are a writer and if you are interested in writing about non-fictional books or like the books of the sort like human psychology, you should have role models who has done the research in human psychology. So when you have a role model, you should not only read books about the role models but their role models as well. Supposing if I'm interested in one writer, and I should also read his books as well as his favorite writer's books. Only then the knowledge transfer would happen in an effective way. That is what he says. One should have a family tree of his role models, and whatever the field that he is into, he should read a lot of books about those fields, and he should take notes of those things every now and then, whichever is necessary. And he basically suggests us to always carry a notebook, because we never know when the creativity pops up. So it is always advisable to always carry a notebook along with you. The second point that he says is, you are ready. The reason he says this is because many of us procrastinate things thinking that we do not have the sufficient knowledge to get into the field which we are interested in. But it is not true. No one has knowledge in the beginning. Everyone learns as they step into the field. So that is what he says. We have to be ready to make decisions in whatever the direction that we are going. And once we have started, we have to start making stuffs. Like rather than waiting for something else to come, we should start making stuffs. So as I told you, as I have given you, supposing if you are a chef and you need to try dishes, like for that you need not try your own dish. Maybe you can have the fusion of 2 dishes that have been done before you. Or likewise, supposing if I am a writer, I have to copy from my favorite writers and I have to give something new to the world, because their perspective might not be the same as yours. They might have certain perception when they were writing the book, and when you read the book you would get different perspectives. So there is nothing wrong in copying from your role models. That is what he says. Rather than being idle, you can at least do something. So he suggests us to take actions. That is what he says as the second point. The third thing that he says is, do not do what you know, but do what you love. Because only when you do what you love, you will be able to go beyond the obstacles that you face in your life. So that is what he says. Always do what you love to do. Only then you will be more creative in whatever the field that you are into. And whenever you whatever you want to exist in your niche. Supposing if you are if you're an IT engineer or software engineer, and you want some, you are getting into agricultural field, and you want something to be existing in agricultural field, so you need not wait for someone else to do that for you. Maybe with your knowledge you can try to do something that is required for you. So that is what he says, when whatever you want your niche to exist, you have to do that. And the thing that he says is, the next thing that he says is fill me. But that is what he says, supposing whenever you are at loss to know what you want to do in the future, always ask yourself these questions, like what would make a better story, and go do that. That is what he says as the third point. The fourth point he says is that always take care of yourself and stay away from debt, because these are the two ways in which one can be healthy. So when you are having a good health, you would not be worried about anything. Likewise, when you're out of debt, your mind would be free. So that is what he says, always take care of your health and stay away from debt. These are the ways in which one can be more creative. And he suggests that we should have a track of the activities that we do, and we should have a calendar. Supposing if I'm a writer, I should write a specific number of words in a day, and I should have them marked in a calendar. So what happens is, when you have a calendar and you fill the boxes, you feel good. Supposing if you leave a day, you would feel bad. So that would make you do the activities regularly. So that is what he says, that always mark the days that you do your work in the calendar, and when you don't do the activity, unmark it or do not mark it. That is what he says, and he suggests not to break the chain. And he also says another thing, that you should always have a logbook of the activities that are happening in a day, because what happens is, we would not remember after a week the minor thing that we have seen. Supposing if I have seen sunset and I felt good about that, in the sense I can make note of it, what would happen is I can relive that particular moment in future. Supposing if I have not marked them down, what would happen is that you would not remember. So, and as we all know, it is the smaller activities such as these that give us happiness. So it is always good to have the note of the minor activities that happen in a day. That is what he says as the fourth point. The fifth point is that choose your information wisely, because the information that is required for us is abundant. If you Google a term, you would get abundant knowledge or abundant resources that provide you the information. So we have to have constraints, and only when we have constraints, we'll be able to be selective in the type of information that we gather. So it is advisable, being or having a constraint is always good, be it the time that you spend with friends or anything, the time that you spend in creating yourself. So in all those things we should have constraints. So the right constraints can lead you to your maximum potential. That is what he says. So always have time constraints. So these are the 5 principles that I felt as as my favorites. So thank you. I'll see you guys in the next week in another video. Thank you.